Hello, this is Romanosky from Calgary, Canada, shooting from the Lugnuts facility. And what we have behind us is a really interesting SUV, a sporty SUV. This is a 2020 Jaguar F-Pace SVR. So the SVR being the high performance variant and the top of the line Jaguar, it gives you the 550 horsepower supercharged V8 engine that's also shared in the high-end Range Rovers. So within the whole JLR family, the Jaguar SUVs are the sportiest, and this is the sportiest Jaguar. Okay, so we've got the high-performance engine, 550 horsepower, and then we have suspension, brakes, exhaust, interior, body kit to go along with that. This example here was bought new in Calgary, always serviced at the dealer. It has 50,000 kilometers from the 4 or so years of operation, and it has a clean Carfax, no paint work, no body work, no stories, no invasive maintenance or warranty work. Okay, so about what everybody looks for in a pre-owned car. You know, the highest trim level, low kilometers, and and no stories. So this video will be comprehensive. We'll start with an exterior walk around. We'll go through the interior. It does have a fancy radar jammer system in, so we can describe that. We'll go into, we'll have some photographs of the undercarriage, and we'll do a thorough walk around presentation of this vehicle. But anyway, it's very, very attractive. It was good value when it was new at about $120,000, and I think it's really good value now, considering that it's with only 50,000 kilometers, hardly has any use, has had any use. So design-wise, I think it's a hit. We've got LED headlamps and you know, great big 22-inch wheels. You know, aggressive venting for the hood scoops and for the air exit, you know, aft of the front wheel wells. And then the interior is really sporty. Really comfortable seats in two-tone with a kind of a diamond-esque quilting and carbon fiber trim. So 2 big infotainment screens, nice thick wheel, you know, good quality materials throughout. And overall, it's a pretty convincing package. And again, you know, all the stuff, you know, they only made these one way, coming with, you know, sports seats, two-tone seats, sport exhaust, all the rest of it. With the Porsche and other cars, you know, you had to pay individually for that, meaning that a lot of the cars don't have this equipment. So if you're searching for a Macan Turbo, it may not have a sport exhaust, it may not have a full leather interior, may not have contrast stitching, etc. And to get one of those, you know, that you could add $30,000 or $40,000 to the base price of a Porsche. And a lot of people, of course, just didn't do that. Okay, so with the Jaguar, you got all this stuff as standard, meaning that if you're cross shopping, you have to be really careful with the Porsche, because, you know, you could order one with like no equipment on it. So anyway, it's a great package, and like I said, new. It was a great value proposition, offering a traditional Jaguar value of value and performance for the dollar and luxury for the dollar. Something the brand was known for right from the Jaguar XK series and E-Type of the late or the 50s and early 60s. So exterior details. Well, we have this screen over the Jaguar emblem, and this would be for the adaptive radar. Above that, we have a camera, and that would be one of 4 for the surround view. So then the images for this camera are mixed with the side view and also the rear, and that gives you a bird's eye view of the car, which makes maneuvering a whole lot easier. We've got the SVR badge here. We've got the ultrasonic parking radar down there. Thankfully, they cut the 3M around it, so they work. Okay. Now, interestingly, what these are aftermarket editions. This is the Stinger radar laser detector and jammer system, and these little bits here are actually fiber optics. So we have a sender and a receiver, and that is what is going to detect and jam the radar. And you've got 3 sets of those, one there, and one there, that are set off in different angles. And there is a controller. Let's show you that now. And then this is the touch-sensitive pad, which operates the laser jammer system. On the top of the hood, we've got the hot air intakes, and the engine does develop its share of heat, so these are functional. And then we have an air intake from it relieves the high or low pressure from the wheel well. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, it's a functional device that relieves the pressure in the wheel well for better aerodynamics. For the side view mirrors, we can see that we've got the cameras beneath the mirrors, joining the ones front and rear. We've got some aggressive side sills, which are unique to the SVR. And these 22-inch, what they call them, diamond-turned wheels, and that's like a very high luster finish on the wheels, and then giant brake rotors and calipers, and these rotors don't show a lot of wear, so they probably have maybe 20% taken, so 80% remaining for the front rotors. And big rotors like that aren't cheap, so that is good to know on a used car. And these look like giant 4-piston calipers needed for a rotor that size, okay? On the rear, we have smaller calipers, of course, and these rotors have a little bit more wear on them, maybe 30%, but not more than that. And generally, you'll go through 2 sets of front rotors before you go through a set of rear rotors. Around the back of the car, we have these tail lights, which are inspired by the Series 1 E-types in the early 60s. Some really nicely done reflector light units built into the side. We've got the big 4 exhaust pipes and nice chrome trim. And we do have the trailer hitch on the car, and that's good for just over 5,000 pounds. The special vehicle operations, I don't know why it's not called an SVO. I guess maybe Ford has that patented. So this is an SVR. And otherwise, very compelling, very, very interesting design. Design was done by, I guess Ian Callum would have headed Jaguar design in this era. And he would have also done the Aston Martin Vantage and DB9, as well as a lot of other really great cars. First class British designer, Ian Callum. He would have been tasked with redefining the look of Jaguar from the old school sort of XJ series and modernizing it. Not an easy task, because they had kept that look since the early 70s. And I think he did a really fantastic job, making Jaguars modern, but still having some, cues to the past. I think he did a really great job at that. And the F-Pace was undeniably very successful and accounts for, 60-odd% of their sales, as you'd expect a SUV2 to do in the lineup. But and they didn't make many SVRs. So finding a used one isn't that easy. There aren't too many on the market. And then finding one with really low kilometers and one owner and no accidents as well. So, you'd have to look for a while to find another one as nice, as clean, and with as low kilometers as this one. So in 2020, I would have sold new Porsches, new Macan turbos. And in that era, JLR was giving us a really hard time with market share. And I didn't have a sales manager's meeting without saying, how come Jaguar Land Rover is like outselling Porsche? Okay, so this was one of the reasons, and it was a pretty good value proposition. The F-Pace would have, size-wise, would have landed somewhere between a Macan and the Cayenne. And a Macan, for me, Macan's a great vehicle, for me was a little bit tight. And certainly I couldn't have sat in the front and in the rear and been comfortable. I'm just a bit over 6 feet tall. So the F-Pace gives you a little bit more room than that. I can get comfortable in the, you can come over here. I mean, I can get very comfortable in the front with all the room that I need, and I've got a good 2 or 3 inches of headroom, you know, all the room. And then if I go in the back, you know, there's again, I've got 2 or 3 inches of headroom. In a Porsche Macan, my knees would have been right up against the seat. I'd have to splay my knees a little bit, and my head would be kind of rubbing on the headrail. So this basically is about as much interior room as a Porsche Cayenne. Okay, so, but if I wanted a Porsche, a 550 horsepower Porsche Cayenne, that would be a Cayenne Turbo, and that would have been one in the high 100s anyway, all the way up over 200 for a Turbo S. And I think just from memory, I think a Cayenne Turbo was 500 horsepower and a Turbo S was 550. And a Turbo S would have been over 200 grand, and a Cayenne Turbo would have been pushing, you know, 175 or something like that. So this car was 120. When you compared it against a Macan Turbo would have been in the low hundreds, so about the same price as a Macan Turbo, but for that you got more space. The Macan Turbo was 400 horsepower, and this is 550. Also, you know, the Porsche option lift drove everybody crazy, and the minute you started checking the boxes for full leather interior and for deviated stitch and for all that, then the price rapidly got away from you, and could be, you know, 120 or more for that. So the Jaguar F-Pace SVR, what it really did is it offered, you know, Cayenne Turbo space and performance for Macan money, and that's why it sold really well. Okay. Okay, so let's just go through the specs on this car. The color is Eiger Gray, I guess that's after the mountain, with an ebony and oyster interior. We have the base price of the car at $92,000, a drive assist pack, a luxury interior pack, a protection pack, the 22-inch gloss black wheels, metallic paint, roof rails, tow hitch receiver, aluminum weave carbon fiber, HD radio, the upgraded Meridian sound, heads-up display, and the active key. So the driver assist pack for $3,600. Well, we know it has the active cruise control, and normally we can see this marking on the mirror. Well, that would indicate the blind spot assist. We also have the surround view camera. So I'm gonna assume here that our drive assist pack includes the active cruise control, the blind spot monitoring, and the surround view camera. It may also have, let's just check for cameras here. Yeah, so it's got 2 cameras up on the top of the windscreen here, and it's got a third. That looks like a rain detector sensor. These 2 are cameras, and so they're going to read the white lines on the road. And so the car will also have some form of lane detection warning as well. So that's what's going to be in the drive assist pack. And then we have the luxury interior pack for $1475. And I'm sure what that is seats and memory and so on. And we can see that we have the multi-adjustable seats, and I bet that is lumbar. We'll have to start it, but I'm sure that's what that is. And so that's what and if I'm not sure, I'll put it in the notes in the video, what the luxury interior pack is.
I think it's the carbon too.
Do you think it's carbon? Well, the carbon's a separate option.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. We have protection pack for $668. No idea what that is. We know what the wheels are for $2,500. Metallic paint, black roof rails, that's self-explanatory. Tow hitch receiver, self-explanatory. $1,300 for the carbon fiber trim, and then the sound system upgrade and the heads-up display. Okay, so that brings the total price of the car to about $105,000. Add a block heater, add some other stuff, and out the door price becomes about $108,000. And this vehicle went into service, looks like November 23rd, 2019. It would have had a 4-year warranty, which would have been up in 2023. The last time it saw the dealer was at 50,000 kilometers, 50,035 in November of 23. And so the car really hasn't been driven since. 51,700 kilometers. So it's been driven only about 1,700 kilometers since November 2023. Okay. So the first question that just about everybody asks with a used vehicle is, has it been in an accident and has it had any paint work? The Carfax is pretty good. It picks up just about everything. But if you have some paint work done and it's not reported to the insurance, then it can slip through the Carfax, but it can't with a paint meter. So we will meter the car and we will verify that it has the original paint depth on all of the panels. Now this vehicle has the full 3M, so obviously it's going to be thicker, but we know that the protective film is around 200 micrometers, and we know that original paint on a modern car is around 150 micrometers, and we know that the film is around 200 micrometers. Add those together, that's 350, and so we're expecting something in the 300s. And we can see here that we're getting readings in the low 300 micrometers for the hood, which has had the 3M applied. And we're getting anywhere from 300 to 350 micrometers. We'd expect this on also the front fenders, around the same paint depth in the low 3s. Moving to the fender, which does not have PPF on it. Now we're back to factory paint, and we're in and around between 1 and 200 micrometers, or 1 2/10 of a millimeter. So we're going through and we're getting readings of usually in the 130s, 120s. Now there are variations depending on how the paint was laid down. The paint will flow to a certain extent, explaining the very minute variations. If the car was repainted, we'd expect 3s and 4s. We'll do the rear quarters, and we're also getting in the 140s, 170. We're not going to pick anything up on the rear bumper cover because it's plastic, and but we will get the rear tailgate. You know what? The rear tailgate in this must also be composite. It's not a metal tailgate. Let's go to the passenger quarter, 146, 156, 160, and the rear door, 152, 146, 140, 163, 160, 164, 322. Now again, we're basically doubling the paint thickness with film. Okay. So that is pretty conclusive. Any of the metal panels are original to this car, and they have factory paint depth, except when they have PPF on them, in which case we get readings around 300 micrometers as opposed to readings in the mid-100s. We can see that the PPF has done its job here. We have a little bit of it tearing because of a rock, but the paint is not chipped underneath. And we've got a few other little places where a rock has hit it, but I don't see any evidence at all that there's any paint chips. There's a couple little marks in the PPF, but I don't see any chipping in the paint. I believe that you wouldn't do this, but if you took the PPF off, I believe you'd get absolutely perfect factory paint. Okay, and the lower bumper, it's not covered with PPF, and we do see a couple of little stone chips, but nothing of any significance. For the windscreen, we do have a chip down there, although I believe that's invisible from where the driver's sitting, and it's just right on top of the heads-up display. And we have a couple of minor chips in the windscreen, but we have no cracking of the windscreen. Looking down the flanks of the vehicle, I don't see any I don't see any door dings at all. It all looks perfectly smooth. I do see, again, a tear in the PPF, but the paint looks intact. Okay, so we've got another chip there, but the PPF protected the paint. Sometimes on the trailing edge of the door, it can get chipped up. But I don't see it's actually really clean. And maybe there's just a couple of the most minor marks in this area here. Actually, you know what? They just rubbed out. There's nothing there at all. Check the rear edge of this, and everything looks good there too. Sometimes the SUVs, they're used for utility. So you can get this ledge that's scratched up. This has been protected with some 3M film. And again, there's the odd little mark in it, but again, nothing in the paint underneath. And these skid plates are still in nice shape. So whatever this was used for, the objects that were in the trunk didn't make a mess of the rear bumper. The lower valence, we see the nice 4 chromed exhausts, and everything looks good here. I noticed that if you look underneath here, this material is peeling a little bit. That's not visible unless you get the car on the hoist. You have to get the camera on the ground to see that, but it is there. Okay. On this side, it is good. Again, the exhaust tips look nice, and the coating on the diffuser all looks good. Down the flank of the passenger side is glass smooth. I don't see any door dings or any imperfections or chips whatsoever. I'm just going to. Okay, so inside the car, we can look at the sill. This area can get scratched up, particularly if the car is winter driven and there's a lot of rocks and salt and so on. And we see only the most minor scuffing on the Jaguar sill plate. Again, if the car is driven in the salt, we'll also find salt stains in the carpet, and they can be very difficult to clean out. And so this one, the carpet is still in beautiful shape, and these carpet mats, of course, are brand new. But even if we take those out, the carpet underlying looks like it's in really nice shape. So if the car is, again, heavily used in winter and the footwell is, filled with, a half inch of salty slop, that'll result in the carpet wearing prematurely and salt stains, which are almost impossible to get out of the car. And for an SUV, that is something you look for after 4 or 5 years. So there can be a very, very wide difference in the condition of SUVs, because some of them are used for kidmobiles, and the vehicles can almost be ready to be like recycled after 4 or 5 years, just because they're used so hard. Other SUVs get driven by older couples, and they live in underground parking, and they go to underground parking, and they have a light and easy life. And people buy them because they're four-wheel drive and you sit up a little bit higher, not necessarily to carry anything or to go off-road. So this is an SUV driven by a retired professional couple. There's no evidence that it was ever used for kids, no evidence that it was ever used for hauling anything. So any of the load areas are in perfect shape, and the interior carpets and trim and seats and so on don't show any evidence of any hard use whatsoever. So this Jaguar, as you would expect most of these to be, of the high-end SUVs, but not all of them, led an easy life and has light wear commensurate with 50,000 easy kilometers over the last 4 years. Okay, so we can demonstrate this as well in the back, and it honestly doesn't look like anybody's ever been in the back. There's no markings on the sills as well, and the seats and so on look brand new. I know that with 3 young children, if we had this vehicle for 2 weeks, it would not look like this anymore. It just wouldn't, okay? So, professionally driven, garaged, and it's been driven in the winter, but it's only very light use in the winter, okay? So let's go around the passenger side. And again, I didn't mention that it has no odors. It was not smoked in either. And this was from a two vehicle family. Actually, we have the second vehicle behind us there, the Mini. And so the passenger seat, really hasn't had a lot of use either. Okay, so really it's just the guy driving himself around on the car. Leather dashboard with contrast stitching, and if the vehicles are left out in the sun in a hot climate, we can see that the dashboards start to shrink, and so this really not an issue in Calgary, and certainly not an issue if the car is garaged like this one was. But still, that's not the case. The vehicles can look okay in photographs, but if you get an imported vehicle from Arizona or something, you can actually have a lot of issues with the dash top. So really, I would say the interior of this vehicle can't really be faulted. Okay, so let's look under the hood. So 5-liter supercharged V8 engine, JLR. This engine's in, virtually all, well, not all the Range Rovers, but all the top-end Range Rovers, and they've used it for quite a while. They had a 4.2 supercharged engine in the early 2000s with, I think, 400 horsepower, and then somewhere around 2010 they came out with this 5-liter engine. So it's a well-proven engine, and like I said, it's in all the high-end Range Rovers. Normally, normal state of tune is 500 horsepower, and with the SVR versions of both the Range Rover and the Jaguar, it gets 550. Happily, you actually get to see the engine. Most cars have a big piece of plastic over that. Not that there's that much to see, but we can see the engine bay is in good shape. What you'd look for is corrosion, and they'll start on the fasteners. And so if you get an engine, or if you get a vehicle from a place where it was driven in salty roads, you'll often see corrosion start at this age and mileage. If you get it from the GTA or Montreal or some of the other salty U.S. states. So what looking under the hood can tell you is that, well, first of all, it looks clean and tidy, and it doesn't look like anybody's been in there, which is good. Secondly, you're looking at, or I look for anyway, all the different fasteners, and I'm not seeing any corrosion at all. There's not much else to see, but there's no issues or red flags, or there's no evidence that something wasn't put together wrong, and certainly no evidence that any of the bodywork has been touched, although we did verify that with the paint meter. Okay, in the rear of the car, it all looks in really good shape. The sill is unmarked. It is protected with 3M. These metal skid plates have received little use, although you can see some markings on them. The rubber mats have always been in the car, and the pattern actually matches the seats, which is interesting. So they've always been in the car. The fabric mats just came out of a bag. They've never been used, and it's the first time they've been installed in the car. We have the block heater, which looks like it's never been attached to the car and never needed. And underneath, we have the unused Space Saver tire. Some of these SUVs get used pretty hard. Kids stuff, golf bags or whatever. Sometimes this material, it's not that durable, and the plastic gets scratched up a little bit, so that all looks basically like nothing's ever been in there. And a lot of these cars lose the parcel trays just because they're a pain if people are loading stuff. And this one has the parcel tray. Okay, so let's do a cold start driving test on this Jaguar F-Pace SVR. I don't know that it'll be too illustrative. On a late model, low mileage car, we're not expecting any funny noises from the engine or any such thing, although we will demonstrate this. We can look for, more likely in a late model car, you may have a problem with check engine lights and so on. So we'll look for those. We'll go on a test drive, and again, we're going to expect that it's going to drive perfectly, and I have driven the car, and it does drive perfectly. But we'll demonstrate that as well, and we can keep a lookout for any sort of vibration from the brakes or the tires, or noises from the suspension, etc. There aren't any, but again, we'll demonstrate this. We can play around with the various sport modes and the sport exhaust, and I can sort of offer my commentary on how the car behaves. So I'll start the car up for you right now. And you know, it's a remote start stop, and you can also use a Jaguar watch, which we do have with the car. But we'll fire it up. And the Jaguars are known for a fairly, you know, robust, enthusiastic exhaust note, and this car does have that. And I can actually get the microphone and place it near the exhaust for you. Okay, and then we have a sport mode too, or a sport exhaust. And
Welcome to Stinger.
do you want to toggle that a few times? It's the nearest. Yeah. So that's quiet. That's sport. And maybe give it a few revs in each. Not too much, maybe just 2,500 RPM. Go. Sounds nice in both, actually. Just a little bit deeper and more guttural in the sport. And then we'll go along to the engine bay. And 5-liter supercharged, 550 horsepower. Idle is steady. And it's unusual that the engine doesn't have a big cover on it. I mean, most of the cars you open the hood and all you get is a piece of plastic. So, you know, it's nice to see the engine and see everything working. Supercharger looks like it's in the center of the V there and covered up by the intake manifold. But anyway, it's a engine that's in all the Land Rover products as well. So it's well proven. I think this engine came out in, I think, 2011. It's been around for more than 10 years. And has a very good reliability record on it. Anyway, so that's that. Let's just take it for a drive and see what it's like. Okay, so what are the ingredients to this car? Well, it's we've got a platform which is shared with other JLR cars, presumably anyway. Big 22-inch tires, 265s on the front and 295s on the back. 8-speed gearbox. And 5-liter supercharged V8, 550 horsepower. We have a sport exhaust, which we can cycle on and off. We have big brakes, which look to be aluminum hats or aluminum centers, and steel, and then the steel rotors. So big brakes, big tires, big power, nice gearbox. It's conventionally sprung, meaning the weight of the car rests on coil springs, not air suspended. There's good and bad with that. The air suspended cars have, you know, they have different ride heights, so you can press a button and it can go up and down. And there's a little bit more scope as to the sport, comfort, you know, compromise in the car. The bad thing about it, particularly with a used car, is that those air struts are expensive, around $2,000 a corner, and they have a finite life. So if you've got a car like a big SUV, heavy SUV, air suspended, one thing is sooner or later you're going to have to replace all 4 of those struts, usually at, you know, a year, anywhere from kind of 7 to 10 usually. And the other thing about those struts is that they don't work in really cold weather. So even when they're new, those vehicles will be on their bellies when it's -30, and they can freeze up on you, and that disables the car. So there's a good argument for the second owner of the car, like the used car, preferring the conventional coil springs. They have adjustable dampers, and so they have that part of the system which is adjustable for comfort, but it's actually resting on the coil spring. So you don't have to worry about coming out and having the car sitting on its belly, or the compressor for the air freezing up. And it believe me, it happens in Calgary with everything, not just Land Rovers. Okay, so moving off, I guess the one thing with that is with 22-inch rubber, you want to assess the ride comfort with coil springs to see what it's like. And Jaguar historically has done a really excellent job with ride comfort compromise. So I'm expecting actually the car to be quite comfortable despite coil springing and large tires. And we can see that it's firm, but it's well damped and well controlled and not objectionable. These are some really bad roads in industrial area in Calgary. So if the car will pass that test here, it'll pretty much pass it anywhere. You sit pretty low down in this SUV. It is quite sporty. And in the whole JLR family, you know, of course, Jaguar would have the sportiest variants, and the F-Pace would be the sportiest SUV in that whole family. Suspension's nice. Steering is sharp. And this, of course, is this being the SVR, is the highest performance, sportiest version of the F-Pace, which is the sportiest SUV in the Jaguar Land Rover lineup. But the steering's really direct. I'm not picking up any abnormal tire noise, and when I squeeze the brakes, there's no vibration or squealing from the brakes, so that's good. When you get vehicles that are 4,000 pounds and 550 horsepower, they need big brakes, and those brakes can be expensive to replace, and so it's nice to know that this one doesn't need them. And the interior, I don't hear any squeaks or rattles, despite it being a rough road. And it feels really tight, and the overall sort of impression is really great, really nice design and high quality materials. When you start getting into leather dashes and contrast stitching and carbon fiber trim on an SUV, generally when you think about all the different components that go into this, $110,000, which is the list price, you normally don't get that. You certainly don't get it in a Porsche. So this feels like a $150,000 vehicle, not a $110,000 vehicle. And of course now it's 4 years old, so it's a percentage of that. So for the money, geez, like what else are you going to get in and around $60,000 or $65,000 that's going to look and feel like this? Only 50,000 kilometers. Yeah, and I'm not going to push my luck here, but it has certainly all the performance you'd ever need, and but actually a really nice exhaust note, so you don't even have to use the last 2,000 RPM or whatever, 3,000 RPM. So it's still satisfying. And interestingly, off throttle, it's pretty silent and refined. And then when you get on into large throttle openings, it's only then that you hear the noise, which means you can kind of control how much noise you're going to make. And there's going to be times where, you're just driving home from dinner and you just want to get home, and you're not interested in waking the neighbors or scaring your passenger, and you just want to get home. And so it'll do that too. But then on a large throttle opening, it'll really sort of awaken the car. Okay, so that's nice. I like to be able to control that. Some cars where they're always noisy and it's always an event, they can get pretty tiring, and you might not want to drive it that much, just because there's, like I said, for most people, cars like this are just, even though they're really nice cars, they're just a way to get from A to B. We have lots of conventional buttons, which is easy. If you just want to go in and change the climate control, you don't have to go into a big menu. We've got this reasonably straightforward central infotainment display. It all kind of makes sense. We've got a home button. Yeah, so a nice V8 Burble, and I think we're in the sport mode now, so if we cancel that. Transmission's very responsive. I'm not sure if it's a ZF or a get rag, but I'm sure it's the same 8-speed gearbox that's in just about everything. Manufacturers don't make their own gearboxes typically. So anyway, that's state of the art. And you know, the one thing that you might be concerned about with, you know, a super powerful SUV, is it overly noisy, overly harsh, whatever. And I would say this one isn't. I mean, you're going to get some road noise from 22-inch rubber, but I don't find it objectionable. And like I said, you know, because it's got an 8-speed gearbox, when you're just cruising, it has so much torque that it doesn't need any more than 1,000 or 1,500 RPM to kind of do anything. And at those RPMs, the engine doesn't make any noise at all. So, you know, you can drive the car normally, and you know, use 50 or 75 of the 550 horsepower and have the rest all in reserve when you need it. But it's not grating when you don't need it. So we've got the heads-up display. We've got you know, configurable instruments, all the latest infotainment tech and buttons that you would expect on a $100,000 car. You know, of course, heated seats, heated steering wheel. We'll do one kind of blast up through the gears here. Put it in sport and show you what that's like, and then conclude the drive. So in summary, the car doesn't do anything funny, doesn't make any strange noises. There's no evidence of any wear to the brake rotors or any abnormal tire noise on the car. The idle's rock steady. There's no check engine lights, no warning lights on the car. And then for sort of subjective impressions, you know, this is a pretty sporty SUV. It almost feels like a car. You sit quite low down. Your driving position is really quite car-like. I mean, you don't sit upright. So let's go up through the gears. Yeah, so we're very quickly going a lot faster than I want to go. It does a nice job of giving you a bit of a blat in the upshift, and actually what usually the way they do that is they inject a little bit of extra fuel after you shift, and so that it sort of combusts in the exhaust pipe and gives you that kind of burble like you get in a carbureted car. So they figured out a way to do that with modern engine management. Even though it does use a little bit more gas. So it's plenty fast. It feels every bit as fast as a Porsche Turbo, a Cayenne Turbo, and it'll certainly get you into all kinds of trouble really quickly if you want it to. But it's the effortless power from the supercharged engine. You know, the Cayenne Turbo is, of course, turbocharged, and so you have to wait a little bit for the power. And this just is crisp, instant power from 0 RPM. So a little bit more usable than a turbocharged engine. And it's absolutely more than ample. So this engine propels a full-size Range Rover to, you know, ridiculous speeds. And so it has light work in this car, which I believe is only about 2,000 kilograms. So relatively lightweight for a car of this type. So we will conclude the driving video on this car, and we're going to park it. Actually, why don't we park it next to the E-Type, because that is the spiritual forebearer of this car. So let's get it into lug nuts here.
Watch others have been there. I'm going to move it. That's got it.
And we'll park it next to the Series 2 E-Type, which it does actually share some of the values with. I mean, the E-Type was terrific value when it was introduced. You know, it was a third the price of a Ferrari or something with similar performance. And Jaguars in general have offered a lot of value for the money, and they've also offered the family man a sporting drive, in terms of all the sporting Jaguar sedans from the '60s, the Mark II and so on. So the Jaguar continues that tradition with this car, and good value for the money, and it's practical, yet it offers somebody who needs the size and space for whatever reason, it offers them like a really sporty drive. So all in all, a nice car, and especially for the second owner at 50 cents on the dollar from the new one. Okay, so with that, thank you for riding along. Okay, in summary, we have a 2020 Jaguar F-Pace SVR. It's the high-performance variant of the lineup and the top-of-the-line Jaguar SUV. It has the 550 horsepower engine shared with the high-end Range Rovers, which are the sporty Range Rovers, which are also badged SVR. For this car, it's a local Calgary car purchased by a professional couple who also purchased the Mini in the background, who are moving out of the country and left the cars with us for sale. It's covered just over 50,000 kilometers. It's 51.7. It's only ever been to the dealer, getting dealer serviced and dealer history from day one, with no invasive repairs or warranty work. The car has a clean Carfax. The paint meter report shows that it has all the original paint depth on the panels. From new, it had 3M covering the front clip, or protective film covering the front clip, with only a couple of marks in it. And it was also had the benefit of a expensive, around $7,000 Stinger laser radar jammer system installed in the car. The car was always garaged. It had very limited use in the winter. It does have a set of winter wheels and tires that come with the car. But the underneath of the car shows no evidence of corrosion. The engine bay shows no evidence of corrosion. And inside the car, there's no evidence of any salt staining or any wear at all, really, to the carpets or leather. So it's about, I would say, in summary, about as perfect a used car as you could reasonably expect to find, with clean Carfax and low kilometers and nice condition, one owner, full service history, all the things you want to hear when you're shopping for used cars. In addition to that, it remains, I think, really good value, because even when it was new at $110,000, it offered Porsche Cayenne turbo size and performance for Macan money. And so now, 4 years later, it still drives as a new car and looks like a new car, yet it's a healthy saving over that. And so this is a good vehicle for somebody, very attractively priced, and useful with the SUV, body shell and space and utility, etc., and performance from 550 horsepower. So this is a good vehicle for somebody. we're happy to represent it and find a new home for it. And we'll do the same thing with the Mini in the background, which is also a great vehicle. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Lawrence Romanosky from Calgary, Canada, and the Lug Nuts facility.